Welcome to the Aid Station. I'm Chris Robb and really excited today to be heading to Tel Aviv in Israel to meet Eitan Hefetz, who's the co-founder and CEO of an amazing company called Pic2Go. Great to see you again, Eitan. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, Chris. Great to see you again. Very excited to join this initiative. Great initiative. You're supporting the global industry. Love it.
Thank you so much. And talking about a global industry, you've built an amazing global business. Why don't you take a few minutes just to tell us about your story and the story of Pic2Go, please?
Of course. So I'm coming from a high-tech background. I work for SAP, the German enterprise software company. Started there as a developer and moved on to various management jobs. And then about 10 years ago, the passion of becoming an entrepreneur, had to take this step, and we've launched Pic2Go at 2010. And what has driven us is to support people sharing their experiences in real life events into the digital world. And this connected very fast into our world of endurance events. And this is how we came with the solution of Pic2Go. It's a photography solution, but we look at it in a wider scope as a digital experience sharing, where we were also very happy to be among the pioneers who have driven the free race photos, or the what we call sponsored race photos. So participants, finishers have a chance to share their achievement, share their experience to social media, who also was, growing as we grew as a company, and provide a great benefits to sponsors, but drive the shift from paying to your photos into getting them quickly, automatically, and shared for free. So that's what excites us.
Yeah, and a huge, as you say, real disruption in the industry is in its time, and created so much traction for sponsors and so much joy for participants. We were talking a little bit before we started recording. The situation in Israel is starting to open up. The COVID control by the government was pretty amazing. You were saying, well, why don't you just share a little bit about what life has been like over the last few months? I know you're a father of three, working from home with three young children and managing a growing business. What's that been like for you?
Indeed, so three young boys, being quite challenging, juggling between managing the business, taking care of the boys. I think here in Israel, like rest of the world, around mid-March, we got into lockdown. Government here acted quite fast, I must say, in a positive way. And we had to stay at home for around 6 weeks. And then about 4 or 5 weeks ago, so this has been, quite challenging, quite tough, like for everybody. Finding the right time in the day to, keep the business going, and then taking care of the kids. And about 4 to 5 weeks ago, they've started to, lift the restrictions. And luckily for us, I must say, the situation is really positive. Number of cases have been keeping quite low. And as the schedule as they plan it today is that mid-June, they are going to hopefully lift any restriction, and even mass events can start to take place. So we are optimistic with the situation here locally in Israel.
No, that's fantastic. And I can't begin to imagine three boys in a home and trying to work. I've got one 5-year-old, and I find that challenging enough. So congratulations to you and your wife. That's
Thank you.
uh,
I think the big celebration is about 2 weeks ago, where they've opened back schools, kindergarten, and that's where we felt life is starting to get back to normality.
Back to normal, yeah. And from an event perspective, you were saying that that one of the biggest organizers, Tel Aviv Marathon and the like, just put out their calendar yesterday. They're talking about events in September, which is exciting. The whole world's kind of watching to say, where are things going to start happening first? There's this talk of a Spartan in America, in Florida in June, and some events in Australia in June. So slowly, it looks like in some parts we're starting to move forward, which is exciting, but not without its challenges. So, you were saying that, you had one week you had this big event in London with lots of people getting photos and sharing photos, and the next day, next week, it literally went to nothing. So what are some of the challenges you've been around, I guess cash flow, around staffing, around, yours is very much a partnership business as well from all over the world, isn't it?
Indeed.
How have you managed that?
Indeed. So I think first of all of us as business owners that went into the same situation, that cash flow suddenly drops, in a week. And for us, many times they say diverse your business in order to, minimize risk. We have partnerships in about 40 countries, but, the COVID situation has kind of kept us all unprepared. So global situation, geographical diversity didn't really help in this situation. And at the same, everybody's in the same situation. So once event stops, everyone's cash flow, including our partners, our clients, stops altogether. So we cannot even, demand anything. We understand everyone is in the same boat here. So of course, first of all, and I think that's what most of the business owners have done, is kind of survival. So you look around, minimize, reduce your expenses, have some planning for your cash flow. Again, we got some government support here in the country. I think in many countries, like many other businesses, this helps as well. Many of our partnerships are with yearly or multi-year contracts, so we still got some cash flow going from some of our partners who could manage it, who has the reserves or could still afford it. And it's about crossing this period. And I'm very happy to see that here in Israel, but I hope that in more countries where the COVID situation is getting better, we can expect to see first events taking place, at least in the fall, at least in September, and gradually start to get the business moving again.
Yeah, and we're hearing it's great to see that happening, but also what I'm hearing from people I'm speaking to all over the world is there's just been this massive uptake of activity, bike shops not being able to keep up with demand, people out running, cycling, families out together. And, the positive seems to be that hopefully this is a new group of people that will come into our events. And as you were saying, it might take us a year to get back to something like normality. I personally think that we're never going to be exactly the same as we were, and there's going to be goods and bads out of that. Is that what you've seen in Israel as well, this huge uptake of activity and more potential participants?
Definitely. I think, of course, for runners, but everybody being locked down at home for a few weeks, and then gradually being able to go jogging and, maybe with some distance limit. But people were passionate about going out, breathe air, run, do some activity. So, I think all of us are quite curious to see when events will open up again, what we'll see. We'll see people trying to be cautious and not try to limit themselves, or maybe be afraid to join these events, or the other side, maybe people will just waiting for it, and once there will be an event, we'll see a boom in the numbers. This way or the other, I really hope that in a few months we'll have the chance to see events taking place again.
Yeah. And one of the things I always like to talk about is leadership. So, as a co-founder in your role, you've probably had to make some tough decisions. You've seen leadership in the industry and in your country, and you alluded to good government leadership. I mean, what are some of the toughest leadership decisions that you might have had to make, and what are some of the examples of great leadership that you've seen that might be valuable tips for people?
Yes, so of course, stopping your business and even cutting your expenses, you need to take decision where do you cut. For us, maybe again, luckily as a company, we've spent the few last year, including 2019, to really build into innovation, a lot of new stuff. So with regards to our plans there, we got, again, luckily we got what we wanted to achieve mainly by end of last year. And part of what we plan to do this year is investing into infrastructure, so stuff that you need to do, but not always have an impact that is seen outside. So that's one of the decisions that we've made, and we are using this time. We've reduced the core team a little bit, but of course kept the core development team, and we are focusing on upgrading the infrastructure and stuff that we needed to do anyhow. So at least, you know, we have some quiet to focus on these tasks. That's, I'm sure, the kind of decisions that businesses all around the, you know, in the industry need to take. How to keep the business going, how to keep the audience engaged, how to show some forecast for the business, but at the same time, you know, survive, be able to cross this this period.
Yeah, and you know, with a partnership model, does that potentially create, you know, some kind of concerns for you as you move forward? So, you know, the fact that you've got lots of people around the world. I was, you know, I think you're aware, a few weeks ago, I interviewed Andrew Messick for the show, and he was saying, you know, one of their challenges is that, you know, they own some events and they work in partnership with other events. So you could have an event that's been there for a while, and the potential risk that that business doesn't happen. Is that something that's a potential concern for you? You said 40 countries. That's a wonderful achievement in 10 years. And how do you work as a leader to be able to kind of shore that up and ensure that your business is still going to be there in as many of those 40 countries as possible?
It's a very good question, and you know, our partners are different businesses, each one located and operates in their own country, own geography. It would not be, you know, same thing for everybody. We are aware of it. What we try to do is, first of all, support, you know, starting with flexibility financially. We understand their situation, and we are not pushing anyone into a situation that they cannot manage. Then we try to, you know, keep the open discussion with everybody and see how they each of them manage the situation in their own country. And this is very interesting, really, to see how those different business owners manage their situation. Some of them are organizers, some of them are marketers, some of them are photographers, you know, race photography companies. And what you can see across the board is a lot of creativity. So for instance, photographers we have a partner who is using this time with real estate photography, for instance. They have the skills, they have the equipment, so they look into niches of the same, you know, domain photography that are still active. Other are marketers. So we, as a company, we're also in the sponsorship area. Many of our partners have, you know, marketing skills, so they offer digital marketing offerings to companies outside of the industry. So people are being creative. They take advantage of their you know, own skill set and professional capabilities to keep the business running. And we are all in the same boat here. And again, I think once events, I think the fact that we are a global industry, and again, for us as a company, we also operate globally, it also helps in the sense of sharing ideas, but also as the pandemic caught all the world together, we also look at how to get out of it together. I'm sure government and you know, health authorities are consulting and you know, with each other, and us as an industry, once events will start to be scheduled and take place again, I'm sure it would, you know, at least show the light also for countries which are still not there.
Yeah,
so this can also help.
It's a great point, and the creativity is amazing. And obviously, you know, one of your partners is Joel from Mexico, who I interviewed on one of the early things, and he's an exact case in point, isn't he? He took his skills, and his team's been helping marketing with a personal development company, which has helped his business, which is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So of course, you know, each business and what do they have with the cash flow and how much reserves do they have. But the ones who can survive these few months can do amazing things, you know. So focus on non-expensive activities or things that you wanted to do anyhow, and that's the time, or start growing your audience. We have, aside to our Pic2Go business, we have a runners community around the run page. We have a Facebook group with a mentor there. So we keep it growing. It's a low expense from our point of view, but we keep engaging the community, and runners are here. They are, you know, passionate to run again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do to keep your community going and keep your brand in mind of people with, you know, with really minimal expenses.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And as always, like to end on an inspiring story. I'm sure you've seen many inspiring stories around. What is it? Maybe something that inspires you, a story that you'd like to share with people watching the show, please.
So what I've been mainly inspired by, it's not a specific story, but see how both businesses, but also people, how we quickly adapt to all our lives has changed 180 degrees in almost overnight, and especially in working industry. And it's, for me, it's amazing to see how people, businesses, companies quickly adapt to remote work. Suddenly Zoom becomes a standard, and I think much of it is here to stay, not only because of the health situation, but companies who were, for instance, afraid to let people work from home, and I'm talking about corporates or large companies, suddenly see that it has a lot of benefits. Not only saving the office time and travel, etc., but people are more productive. So this is for me very inspiring to see the processes that took place very fast, and then to see what companies will keep and maintain. Much of it is digital, but also the company culture, or how they look for work-life balance. And this will be amazing also with the months to come, to see how all the industry and all the business industry will shift and hopefully keep the good stuff even when we get back to normality.
Yeah, no, great story to end on. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for making your time. Great to catch up again, and hopefully we're going to catch up somewhere around the world in the not too distant future, and all the best in terms of growth back out of that. I'm sure you've made such an impact on the industry, and I'm sure you'll continue to do that.
Thank you very
Thanks so
much,
much,
Chris. Thank you
Eitan.
very much.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.